How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Hello, America. It is Eric Erickson here. Delighted to have you with me today. The phone number is 877-973-7425. J.D. Pritzker has signed legislation in Illinois that makes it hard or makes it easier to sue ICE agents and harder for ICE agents to parole or patrol around courthouses in Illinois. I want to be real clear with what is happening. It's not a coincidence. It's states like New York, Illinois, and California that are doing these sorts of things to slow down the deportations of illegal aliens. We can argue about how they're going about it. In fact, we know a third of the illegal aliens who have been deported thus far have no criminal records. However, that data does distort the fact that of that third, some of them have criminal charges against them. They just haven't been prosecuted yet. But that means 2/3 have criminal records of those who have been deported so far. But what's really happening here, what you need to understand, is that these states are losing population. New York, Illinois, California, the people are fleeing the states. As a result, they need to prop up their population in order to get government subsidies from Washington, D.C., and to maintain their representation in the House of Representatives. The census and the apportionment of the House does not look at citizens, but looks at all residents. Now, this is really important. Why? Some of you don't like it, but it's actually very important that you understand this. A lot of government is of the federal government is based on funding through census numbers. And if you're a legal resident alien in a state, not an illegal alien, although they too, but your kids get to go to government schools for free. We all pay taxes, mostly property taxes, to fund public schools. And unless you're sending a kid to a private school or homeschooling, the default is public school. And it doesn't matter whether it's a citizen's kid or a resident alien's kid, they go to school. Why? Because long term, you want them to get an education so that we're not subsidizing them the rest of their lives. Now, we can talk about the failures of education, separate conversation. Just want you to understand this. So the way the government divvies up the money is through the census. States get money proportionally based on their population. The more people you have in your state, the more money you get. So it's not just apportionment for control of the House and the Electoral College. It has a lot to do with money. Illinois needs the money from the federal government because Illinois is otherwise a bankrupt state. The state pensions have gotten out of control. The corruption and greed in the collusion between bad actors, between unions and others in Illinois has gotten out of control. The state is dependent on federal tax dollars. If all of the illegal immigrants are removed from Illinois, its population will decline such that the federal funding for Illinois goes down. So Illinois actually has a vested financial interest in propping up the population of illegal aliens, not for control of Congress, not for the Electoral College, although that too, but for the money it gets from Washington, D.C. to fund its schools, to fund its health care, to fund its Medicaid and Medicare programs. All of those things require a population of illegal aliens. That is why Illinois, California, New York, and others are desperate to maintain the numbers of illegal aliens in their states because everybody else is leaving. The hardworking Americans and the hardworking resident aliens are packing up and moving south. They're going to Georgia and Florida and Tennessee and Texas and Arizona. They want somewhere warm where they're not having to bail out teachers' unions. You got to understand that. Everybody is losing the plot these days. Everybody has lost the plot. That's what's happening here. They mask it under charitable language of these are our neighbors, but they're not really their neighbors. They just showed up yesterday. But by being there, those states get more money. Now, there's a way for Congress to solve this, and this is to say that the numbers of illegal aliens don't count for purposes of funding money, or that states that don't cooperate with ICE don't get money. But that would have to go through the Senate and could be blocked by the Democrats with the filibuster. The Democrats are trying to preserve their power. And they're trying to preserve their money at the state level that they get from Washington, D.C. They've lost the plot on this. Not only that, but also, and this is important, but also, you've also got to remember that the President of the United States has kind of lost the plot. What am I talking about? Well, the president has, how do I put this lightly? The president has decided that he's going to sell NVIDIA chips to China. The president of the United States of America has decided to allow China to buy NVIDIA's AI powerful GPU chips. Democrats have lost the plot on illegal immigration. President's lost the plot on this national security issue. We right now, you may not know this. I didn't know this. David Shore, who's the data analyst, Democratic data analyst, he lost his job because he pointed out that Republicans running a tough on crime message were winning, and Democrats claimed he was racist and pushed him out of a job. David Shore pointed this out. We actually have a 32-1 advantage over China in computational power for AI chips, 32-1. That means for every computation China's homegrown AI graphic processing unit chips can do, we can do 32 calculations. That gives us a massive computational advantage against China. Whoever controls the AI stack is going to control the future because AI is becoming more and more powerful. By sending these chips to China, they're not the highest end NVIDIA chips, but they're high-end NVIDIA chips. By sending them to China, it takes our competitive advantage of 32-1 and reduces it to 1.3-1. In other words, as soon as China gets their hands on all these chips, for every 32 calculations our chips can do, China will be able to do one calculation. We'll be at 1.3 calculations to China's one. We're giving them a massive increase in computational load, and with it, they'll be able to design more advanced chips that can surpass us. Whoever in the Trump administration advised the president to do this has totally lost the plot. Like the Democrats losing the plot on illegal immigration, the Republicans are losing the plot on national security. China is not our friend. China has not been our friend. If you read the president's strategic plan for the future, they seem, whoever wrote this in the White House, the deep thinkers in the White House, they wrote this and they downplayed China as a threat. Compute is our main advantage. China's got more power plants. They've got more engineers. They've got an entire layer that gives them an advantage by giving them the chips that we can make and they can't make. And that says something about us. Despite all of the grand and glorious things about China and how great China is, China lacks the computational capacity of American engineers. And we're about to hand them the ability to do this. What's crazy about this, and just for perspective, just so you understand, The very day the president authorized sending China these chips, the Justice Department arrested individuals who were trying to smuggle the exact same chips into China. I'm not making that up. This is mind-blowing. The Justice Department arrested people smuggling NVIDIA's H200 chips into China. China will now be able to produce chips. By the way, China can't catch up to us. It's estimated that China will take until 2028 to get to the development that we're at right now. And by the time they're at 2028's development of where we are right now, we'll be ahead of them still. This blows my mind. I don't know who's advising the president right now. I've got a theory. I have a theory. It's a little bit of a light theory. Some of you won't like it. The president of the United States is an 80-year-old man who has been running circles around the young people in his White House. They are all burned out. He's the last man standing. He's got the energy that none of the 20 and 30-year-olds have. And the 20 and 30-year-olds burned out are starting to make mistakes, and they're giving him bad advice. Part of this, too, is the way the deal is structured is the U.S. government's going to get a kickback. Whether it's AMD or Intel or NVIDIA, the president says the government of the United States is going to be getting money out of the deal. Now, there's a problem with that. There's an old Vladimir Lenin quote, "The capitalists will sell us the rope with which we hang them." That's kind of what we're doing. We're giving the Chinese the AI tools by which they can destroy us. I don't know who convinced the president that this was a good idea, but we've lost the plot in the White House. Everybody in Washington, D.C. seems to be losing the plot these days. They're all tired. It's the end of the year. It's been a whirlwind first year for the Trump administration. By the way, just so you understand, we're not even a full 12 months through the first year of the Trump administration. We got 3 more years of this stuff to go. We're 11 months in. He didn't start until January 20th. It's not even December 20th, so we're actually 10 plus months in, not even 11 months into this. It's kind of wild, is it not? All of the people around the president are exhausted. The president himself is running on full steam ahead. The Democrats are playing catch up, but I'm scratching my head here. On the Democrats with illegal immigration, you guys just went through an election where you got your butts handed to you because of outrage over illegal immigration, and yet you want to perpetuate it just so you can get money from Washington and maybe preserve in the next census your clout in the House of Representatives and the Electoral College. A lot of this, though, is about money. It's a financial play. These states are on hard times. They need the illegal immigrants there to prop up social service dollars from Washington, D.C. If Washington banned states from getting money unless they cooperate on deportations with ICE, you'd see them change on a dime. You'd have J.B. Pritzker out there arresting people himself and deporting them. They've lost the plot on immigration. They've lost the plot. But man, in Washington, the Trump administration seems to have lost the plot on national security. We're trying to cut a deal with China and Russia, get them out of the Western Hemisphere, and we'll give them the Eastern Hemisphere. They can fight over it themselves. But you know that gives China and Russia most of the landmass where rare earth minerals are. Jamie Dimon is the CEO of J.P. Morgan. He's building a fund. He's putting people on the board of this fund, and the whole idea is to incentivize American corporations repatriating strategic supplies. So, for example, 98% of the chemicals that go into American pharmaceuticals, whether we make them here or abroad, are produced in China. So he wants to be able to repatriate that and make it financially acceptable, non-tariffed financial investment to bring this home. That seems to be the smart plan. Jamie Dimon seems to be doing a little more. He hasn't lost the plot. He understands China's a strategic threat. I have no idea what's going on. I think people are tired. I think the president's barnstorming the nation, going full steam ahead. Everybody else is tired. Everybody else isn't sure what to do. The young guys are giving him bad advice at this point. But on the same day the Justice Department arrested people for smuggling these chips into China, Trump says, we'll sell them to China. We'll sell them to China and take away our competitive advantage. None of this makes sense. Everybody in Washington has lost the plot. Y'all, I'm real skeptical of the mail order mattresses that come in like the vacuum sealed packs and they slowly swell up and they're all foam. And we got my kid one from a high end brand and she's loved it for years. And we needed to get a new one. I was like, I like a mattress that has the coils and feels like a real mattress and gives you more support. And so we got her one from Brooklyn Bedding. Showed up at the house. My kid took care of it herself. Thank goodness. Okay, y'all, it's so comfortable. I actually, when she went back to the dorm for a week, slept on her mattress. I liked it so much I ordered myself one. So now we've got a king size one and we got a queen size one in the house. They're handcrafted, these Brooklyn Bedding mattresses in Arizona. No middleman, no gimmicks. American craftsmanship for a great night's sleep. And they're so comfortable. You can go to brooklynbedding.com, use promo code ERIC, E-R-I-C-K at checkout. Get 30% off site-wide, brooklynbedding.com. Promo code ERIC for 30% off site-wide. brooklynbedding.com, the promo code ERICK. Well, hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. You know the standard rule, when you want to attack a Republican and you're a Republican, the media helps you do it. I mean, they elevate all of the Republicans who criticize other Republicans. The New York Times has allowed Nancy Mace of South Carolina to run an op-ed on how sexist the House Republicans are. Meanwhile, on CNN, just a few minutes ago, they had Marjorie Taylor Greene back on to attack the President of the United States as a divisive hate monger. Really? Pot, meat, kettle. Isn't it notable that they're allowing the two nut job women of the House to come on and attack the Republicans? The problem here is they're both insane women who have burned bridges with every member of the House, none of whom trust them or wish to work with them. And they're like, it's all sexism. It's all sexism. They sure do a good job of playing the victim. I'm actually worried about Nancy Mace. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, for all her faults, has a support structure around her. She's got kids, got family. I don't know that Nancy Mace does. And when she loses the South Carolina gubernatorial primary, I'm afraid like people are going to have to surround her. Get her institutionalized and intervention, something to avoid self-harm. This is all she's got. I don't know where she goes after when she loses. I'm actually concerned about her mental stability, even more so than Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene's just a performer with an axe to grind. With Nancy Mace, it's something deeper and mentally off there. But yes, see it in the New York Times, allowing them both to elevate their profiles in order to attack the Republicans because, of course. Vision Computers would love to do business with you. There's time to get an order in for Christmas. I don't know if they can build it in time for Christmas, but you can call them and ask them at 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com. Nationwide, Vision Computers helps individuals and companies with computers, with managed IT. Y'all, you got a kid who got a computer in college or they're in the gig economy, they're a freelancer and they need their computer working all the time. Get them Vision Computers managed IT services, $199 a year per computer. And they can remote in, they can do printer support, email support, whatever your kid needs or your family or your business. If you got a business and you can't afford the six-figure salary for the in-house IT guy, Vision can be your managed IT service, and you're going to get a phone number, not an AI chatbot, but a phone number where you call, and in 15 seconds or less, a real human being will answer the phone, and that real human being will help you with whatever you need on your computer so you keep the uptime, you minimize the downtime, and your employees are great at their jobs, and Vision's great at their computers. Call them at 404-COMPUTE, go to visioncomputers.com. Tell them Eric sent you. You might even save a little more money. 404-COMPUTE. Or visioncomputers.com. Let Vision Computers take care of all of your computer needs today. Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. Happy birthday to my son. Today is his 17th birthday. He's home in bed sick. My wife and I are kind of thinking he's got like a mild case of the flu. He never, ever tests positive for the flu. And he got the flu shot, but this year there's a European strain that's made its way here that isn't considered in the flu shot. And I don't know. He's missed 2 days of school. He's not feeling great. Prayers appreciated, but he's 17 today. Good kid. Wants to be an architect. Wants to go to Samford. Wants to be an architect. And I kind of think he's going to wind up in ministry, frankly. He's just really into theology. In any event, I got to move on. Yesterday, we had a caller who called in and said, can you explain the situation with IIhan Omar and her brother? Because the president, a lot of people actually claim that IIhan Omar is married to her brother. And a listener reminded me that Scott Johnson at Powerline blog has actually been on this for a very long time. I want to read you from Scott Johnson back in 2020, February 20th of 2020. This is from Scott Johnson. Is there anyone in the world who doesn't know that IIhan Omar married her brother in 2009? It has been my mission in life to get the word out over the past 3.5 years. Today, Martin Gold reports for the Daily Mail, IIhan Omar did marry her brother, and she said she would do it again to get him papers to keep him in the U.S., reveals a Somali community leader. Maybe word will get out now that it's been reported in the most widely read English language news site in the world. Gold's story follows his trip to Minneapolis last week and his meeting with my original Somali source. His name is Abdulhamid Osman Nur. I first met him in August of 2016 at a public place in downtown Minneapolis. Abdi had called me after the publication of my initial Omar-related Powerline post, IIhan Omar, her back pages. We were afraid of each other, but we have become good friends as I have continued meeting with him since then and developed other sources with his help. Abdi required me to promise confidentiality at the time because he feared for his safety if he were to be identified. He perceives the threats to have intensified over the past 2 weeks and to have reached a crescendo yesterday in a call from a relative of Omar's in which he was told the FBI would be looking for him as a result of his false claims. In my first meeting with him, I asked Abdi over and over, why are you telling me this? He told me he loves the United States. He immigrated from Somalia by way of Yemen. He emphasized that the first time he was treated as a real human being and citizen was the moment he landed in Chicago and was brought a wheelchair in which he was to be taken from the plane. He loves America and does not approve of how Omar has taken advantage of Americans and has refused to be silent. Now, here is what you need to know based on the Daily Mail story from February of the year 2020. By the way, if you text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777, the very first link is the show notes, and we got all the links in show notes. So what you have to understand is that Somalia is a war-torn, dangerous place. You know, since Donald Trump pointed that out, there have been some white progressives who have gone to Somalia and wandered the beach and claimed how grand and glorious Somalia is and how everyone should be tourists there. There have been State Department warnings about Somalia for years, going back to even before the Biden administration. Hard to get birth certificates out of Somalia. This is the Daily Mail's reporting. Squad Congresswoman IIhan Omar told friends years ago that the man who went on to become her second husband was in fact her brother. The Daily Mail can confirm. For the first time, one of those friends has come forward to reveal exactly how Omar and Ahmed Elmi scandalized the Somali community in Minneapolis. Abdulhamid Osman is the first person to go on record to speak of how Omar said she wanted to get her husband papers so he could stay in the United States at the time she was married to Ahmed Hersi. Hardly anyone realized that meant marrying him. Under immigration law, if you marry somebody, they get more rapid service than an unmarried person or other relative. No one knew there had been a wedding until the media turned up the marriage certificate years later. Osman, age 40, told the Daily Mail. Osmond's revelations are sure to renew calls for an investigation into the freshman representative who's repeatedly refused to answer about her marriage to Elmi. She originally said the idea that the spouses were siblings was baseless, absurd rumors accusing journalists of Islamophobia. She has since stayed quiet. Her spokesman told Daily Mail Omar, age 37, does not comment on her family or personal life. The Congresswoman is focused on the work of her constituents. Omar married her husband Hersi in 2002 in a Muslim ceremony that, like many in the immigrant community, was not registered with the state. Their first child, Israel, was born the following year and a second followed. But in late 2000s, Elmi appeared in Minneapolis, said Osmond, who referred to Hersi by his nickname Southside through an interview. People began noticing that IIhan and Southside were often with a very effeminate young guy, Osmond said, who spoke in Somali through an interpreter. He was very feminine in the way he dressed. He'd wear light lipstick and pink clothes and very, very short shorts in the summer. People started whispering about him. He and IIhan both told me it was IIhan's brother, and he was living in London, but he was mixing with what were seen as bad influences the family didn't like. So they sent him to Minneapolis as rehab. Osmond, who runs a popular Facebook blog commenting on Somali issues, said Omar kept her husband Elmi quiet, with no one from the Somali community invited to the wedding. When Hersi and IIhan got married, a lot of people were invited. I'd say 100 to 150 people were there. When she married Elmi, no one knew about it. Osmond said at the time, Hersi was better known than Omar among Somalis. He was a footballer. He promoted a lot of Somali shows. He's very popular. So the scandal was about Hersi's brother-in-law more than IIhan's brother. It has long been rumored Omar and Elmi were brother and sisters, but because of a lack of paperwork in war-torn Somalia, where they're both born, positive proof of the relationship has never been uncovered. The first report that they were siblings appeared on the website Somali Spot in 2016. It said of Elmi, age 34, as soon as IIhan Omar married him, he started university at her alma mater, North Dakota State University, where he graduated in 2012. Shortly thereafter, he moved to Minneapolis, where he was living in a public housing complex before he was later evicted and returned to the UK. The New York Post reported last month the FBI was investigating the marriage and had met with a source in Minneapolis who handed over a trove of documents. Any findings were to be shared with Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the U.S. Department of Education. Anyone found guilty of committing marriage fraud faces 5 years in jail. Elmi and Omar married in 2009 in Minneapolis. Their marriage license shows. Omar says she and Hersi were separated in 2008, and because their faith-based union was never recognized by law, neither is their separation. So there you go. By the way, allegedly the marriage the second marriage was conducted by a Christian minister, according to the marriage license. That's what I know. In other words, there's no real proof that she married her brother, but there are lots of rumors and accusations in the Somali community that she married her brother. There is someone who has close ties to the family who says as much. But she and the guy, their birth certificates destroyed in Somalia. We don't actually know. Republicans have long believed it, but that's where this attack from Donald Trump comes about IIhan Omar. You know where a real attack should come is that IIhan Omar has been getting lots of money from the Feed the Future scammers in Minnesota and has been pressuring people to back down, claiming it was racism to even look into it. She screamed about Islamophobia. She screamed about racism, where members of this Somali community engaged in this massive welfare fraud, where some of them were sending money back to al-Shabaab terrorists in Somalia, were giving her campaign donations. Where did the money come for the campaign donations? You know, this has been one of the disruptive accusations about Democrats generally, is that many of the NGOs, the non-governmental organizations that were getting money from the State Department and other governmental entities, were then in turn hiring outside Democratic-funded consultants who in turn were giving big checks to Democratic donors, essentially flowing taxpayer money through to the Democratic Party. That's been one of the really big accusations out there, and there tends to be substance to it. How do I know? Because despite what is shaping up to be a very bad year for the Republicans in Congress, with 20 to 25 Republican members of Congress on the verge of announcing retirement, Republicans still have more money than Democrats. How is that so? Republicans have more money than the Democrats headed into the elections. Now, I suspect that's going to change any day now. But it's been kind of notable that Republicans are actually making more money on the campaign trail than Democrats. After we broke up the non-governmental organization supply chain that has long been rumored to fund Democratic campaigns. I don't think there's a coincidence there. Lots of outstanding questions. I find it all very fascinating. What I will tell you, however, is this. A Republican campaign attacking IIhan Omar for marrying her brother is not going to win you votes next year. The president is going to hit the campaign trail. Susie Wiles, the president's advisor, has just done an interview. It's very notable that Susie Wiles has come out now to do an interview. A lot of people have been wondering where she is. A lot of people, frankly, have been trying to blame her for the messaging snafus in the Trump administration. I don't think you can blame her. Her job is a very complicated job. Let's just acknowledge that Susie Wiles probably has the most thankless job in Washington, D.C., managing a president of the United States who doesn't particularly want to be managed. But she has decided to get him out on the campaign trail. And the president's decided he is going to do what he can to make it about him on the campaign trail. He's going to do what he can to get out there, campaign for Republicans around the country, and make the case that what the Democrats are doing is screaming about affordability, and it's actually a problem that they themselves created. This is Susie Wiles in this interview.
He's going to have a fun next year, but we're going to put him on the campaign trail, too. Typically, just a little bit of campaign speak, if I may.
Yeah.
Typically, in the midterms, it's not about who's sitting at the White House. It's you localize the election,
right,
and you keep the federal officials out of it. We're actually going to turn that on its head.
Good.
And put him on the ballot, because so many of those low propensity voters are Trump voters.
Yes, they are.
And we saw a week ago Tuesday what happens when he's not on the ballot and not active. So I haven't quite broken it to him yet, but he's going to campaign like it's 2024 again.
Oh.
For all these people that he helps. He doesn't help everybody, but for those he does, he's a difference maker. And he's certainly a turnout machine.
We'll test the theory. He's still not going to be on the ballot, technically. They're going to do everything they can to try to make him be on the ballot, get him focused out there, and he wants to take on the issue of affordability. He wants to take on affordability issues and point out that the Democrats are the ones who broke the economy, and it's taken time to get it done. Now, I will tell you this. He also wants to do a $12 billion bailout of farmers because of the tariffs. You know, China promised to buy all the soybeans. They haven't. They said they would, but they haven't. I saw an interview, I think it was on CNBC yesterday, with somebody who runs operations at the Port of Los Angeles, where a lot of the farm commodities ship out to China. The guy said, we're not seeing it. We're not actually seeing it. So I got a sneaking suspicion this is why the president decided to allow the NVIDIA chips to be sold to China, is because they're still not buying soybeans. That's a national security compromise for farmers I don't think we should make, though. But he wants to do a $12 billion bailout for the farmers, and the whole reason we're having to do the bailout for farmers is because of the tariffs have disincentivized countries buying crops from us. So the farmers would prefer to be able to sell their crops, and they can't sell their crops because of the tariff. So the farmers are taxpayers, and the taxpayer money is going to revert to the farmers to get some of their own money back in their own pocket because they can't sell stuff. If we just got rid of the tariffs, they could sell stuff, and we wouldn't have to do a $12 billion bailout and add to our $39 trillion national debt. There's a lot of talk about Jasmine Crockett in Texas and her launch. You know, she's actually a pretty smart person who plays crazy. Unlike Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace, who are just pure old crazy, Jasmine Crockett likes to play the crazy to get attention, and I don't know that she's going to be the Democratic nominee in Texas. The reason she's running for the Senate is because her district was redrawn by the Texas Republicans, making it much more difficult for her to win re-election. So she's taken a chance. The Democrats pushed Colin Allred out of the race so Jasmine Crockett could get in. I just don't know that she's going to be able to win. She's never had to win a Republican in her life. She doesn't know how to win Republicans or independents for that matter. She's run in a very, 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 very safe district, but she's getting attention. Her launch video was all about her. The Atlantic noted that on her phone, her lock screen is a picture of herself. She's getting the attention she wants so she can transition into something else after she loses. But some of these Democrats are just losing their mind on this class and race warfare stuff. Hank Johnson is the Democratic congressman from Georgia. He's the one who thought that Guam, the island of Guam, would physically tip over if you put too many soldiers on it. This is him.
And that's some of my congressional colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle. I think many of them adopt that view. And so they simply do not care. And when it comes to black and brown people in America, they look at health care going to those folks, or the lack of health care going to those folks, means more of them will die. And so we'll be able to accomplish the objective of making America white again and ensuring that it remains under white male dominance and control forever.
By the way, I should note that in that interview that Hank Johnson did, that's the Dean Obadala show, he's a Sirius XM host, Hank Johnson has his he, him pronouns in his name and thinks that Republicans want to kill all the brown people and black people to have a white-dominated nation. All of these people, their brains have just gotten broken by the need to say hyperbolic stuff to get attention. I don't have to say hyperbolic stuff about Old Glory Bank. I just have to tell you about them. They're my bank, and they're that good of a bank that I'm effusive with praise for an online bank, which sounds kind of odd, except they're a really good bank. I've got a no-fee check-in and a no-fee savings account with them. They've got premium accounts, including interest-bearing checking accounts. And if you're active-duty military, they'll waive the fee on that account for you. If you're a business, they have great business accounts. They're very hands-on with their businesses. They'd love for you to check them out at oldglorybank.com/Eric. Now, what sets them apart? Yeah, they're an online bank. They're available in all 50 states. They figured out how to deposit cash. They're very hands-on with business lending. They do mortgages, CDs. They're a full-service, fully functioning bank headquartered in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And any one of you nationwide can take advantage of it. And if you got a kid and you need a bank account, they're a really great, innovative bank that kids will appreciate with their custodial accounts. So reach out to them at oldglorybank.com/Eric. oldglorybank.com/Eric. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. oldglorybank.com/Eric.